what's up? Welcome to another Movement Parallels Life guided practice. Today's workout, as they say in the kettlebell world, is simple and sinister. We're going to be doing a minute of lift and carry, alternated with a minute of loaded get-ups or Turkish get-ups today. So I'm working with a kettlebell, doing 15 one-arm swings, and then going into a front rack carry for 30 seconds. And then that immediately flows into 2 Turkish get-ups, holding the kettlebell with that same arm that I just did the swings and carry with. Round after that, I switch arms, go back to the swings, carry, and then get-ups on the other side. So every round alternating arms until we get to 6 rounds total. Now you might want to make some modifications to this workout. Totally cool. I used a kettlebell, so I was doing kettlebell specific movements, the swing and the Turkish get up primarily, but you can substitute standard deadlifts or broad jumps for the kettlebell swings. You could also perform the get ups just holding onto an object like a rock or a sandbag and just holding it on chest at chest level. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the overhead position. So these are some simple modifications that you can make to try to replicate this workout. It'll still be incredibly effective. And the thing that I love about it, it's just rooted in these very simple movements. It's not a lot of flash. All it is some good old-fashioned hard work in just getting strong. As usual, we'll start out with a short warm-up routine, some ground-based movement, a little bit of crawling, like we always do, and then we'll finish with a short cool down. You'll see I actually did one round of this workout and didn't hit the record button and had to go through it again, so I'm pretty gassed at the end. So for the cool down, we work at some breathing, some light stretching and mobility work, and that'll be done. Get a great workout in under 30 minutes. So take a look, make the modifications that you want, get your timer if that's going to help you stay on track, or just follow along with me. And I think that about covers our bases. It's time to get to work.
All right, now getting in with our warm-up, there's going to be about 3 different components to this. We're going to start on the ground with some crawling movements. We're going to go into some single leg stability work, and then finish the warm-up with some kettlebell practice. So right here, just making a simple transition from crawling to standing. Crawl out, pause in the position, and just mindfully walking the hands back towards the feet, transitioning into a squat, and then up to standing. Nothing groundbreaking here, nothing major, just getting moving. Next pattern we're looking at is the crawl pass under transition. Just rotating the body, warming up the shoulders and the core. To spend some time in this inverted crawl position, just shifting side to side to open up my chest and shoulders. I go through these movement patterns all the time, every day really, and this is just an opportunity to check in with the body, see how everything feels connected, see what feels strong, and notice if there's any differences going on between the right and left sides of the body. Next pattern here, again, a few crawl walkouts. This time pausing in the deep squat rather than coming to standing. Good chance to open up the hips and just generate some mobility, especially if you have to spend a lot of time sitting. Next pattern, the crawl rolling transition. From the prone crawl position, here I'm going to take my legs, step over across my body, and come to the inverted crawl position. From the inverted crawl position, I'm going to reach my hand across my body and use that reach to pull me back over into the prone position. Again, just nice and controlled with these movements, trying to generate a stretch that feels right for you. Doing a few circle crawls next. The thing that I focus on with this pattern is moving my hands and my feet so I crawl around a central axis. Gonna make a transition next. From this crawl position, I'm gonna step one leg forward and then reach that same side arm up to the sky. This crawl with the overhead reach is really similar to part of the loaded get up that we'll find ourselves in later on. It's just a really nice way to promote some thoracic extension, get a little rotational mobility. That'll serve us well later on in the workout. Take some time, open up the body, breathe in these positions. All right, I'm going to switch to phase 2 of the warm-up now. Talking about some single leg stability work, just starting with some one-legged hops. I've been doing a lot of stability work on one leg recently. It's really simple stuff, easy to overlook, but I think there's a really high payoff for strength and stability. I'm going to transition to some single leg hinges, just touching the ground, hinging through the hip, coming back up to standing. Not being as strict about these as I would with weight, but making sure not to over round the back too much. So we'll switch legs and repeat the process. A few single leg hops before we go back into those single leg hinges. The big thing with these hops is to really pay attention to how you're contacting the ground, trying to absorb the landing, even though it's just a small jump, but really trying to get the ankle, knee, and hip to communicate for a smooth landing after each jump. Same with the hinge, paying attention to the alignment of the body and making sure to really feel the activation and the recruitment of the glutes and the hamstrings. We'll play with a different plane of motion next with the lateral single leg jumps. Just going back and forth and stabilizing. And then we'll add in more of those single leg hinges. Maybe a little bit quicker tempo this time. Again, working to feel the alignment in the body and feel the movement come from the hinging of the hips. Another dynamic single leg movement here, the single leg sweep. Standing on one leg and creating some circular momentum with the free leg. This is a good counterbalancing movement, but it's also really challenging to stabilize, especially when you start swinging the leg with a little bit more velocity. So we'll do that same little combo back to the single leg lateral jumps, and we'll finish on the opposite leg. More hinges. Try to coordinate your breathing with this action. Try to make each movement smooth. And if there's any space to adapt or vary, just try to play around with some things. We're just warming up here. Leg swings again. Get that standing leg really rooted into the ground. And try to create a little bit more momentum this time. And we'll move on to the last phase of our warm-up, just working with the kettlebell, starting with some solid 2-arm swings. Using those hinge patterns again, the hips drive back, the glutes and hamstrings stretch to catch the bell, and then fire back through for a powerful swing. We're going to pair this with just 5 goblet squats, creating good tension in the body, pulling ourselves down between our hips and driving out of the hole strong. In between sets here, we'll just do some fast and loose drills, just relaxing the muscles, taking a few deep breaths. And we're going to perform 2 more rounds of that series. Coming back, 10 strong kettlebell swings. Really focusing on the hips here, driving this movement with an explosive hip extension. The core is strong to stabilize the upper body, and the hips are catching the bell, stretching, and driving forward explosively to throw that bell back up. Back to the goblet squats. Pulling yourself down into that squat position with control. Maybe you rest for a second or two, stabilize that position, and then drive up strong. Taking a Few breaths, doing some relaxation drills in between rounds here, staying loose. Shaking and hip rotations are two of the go-to drills for me. And as always, just paying attention to breathing. Last round here. Powerful swings. And again, if the swings just aren't working for you, you're not comfortable with them, or you don't have a kettlebell, you can deadlift an object, or performing broad jumps is a great alternative. Same idea of explosive hip extension. 5 more goblet squats. Slowing down my tempo just a little bit, hanging out in that bottom position just a little bit longer, really working to maintain a long spine from the crown of my head down to my tailbone. Now that we're all warmed up, it's time to put in some work. Round 1 here is going to begin. I'm going to start on the left side with 15 one-arm swings. Trying to keep the focus on powerful hips here, explosive hip extension, and making sure that I don't over-rotate. Now the bell's on my left side, so it's going to want to cause my shoulders to rotate some, but generally trying to keep my shoulders pretty square. Coordinating my breathing with every swing. Bring the bell up to the rack position, the front rack position, and then just go for a little walk. In this time, I'm focusing on keeping tension in my body where I need it to support the kettlebell, and relax everywhere else. As best as I can, I'm going to keep my opposite arm relaxed. See, there's a little tension in there. I'm going to try to breathe deeply, and I'm paying attention to how I'm walking as well. I'm going to make a quick transition down to the ground, press the bell, and get into my kettlebell get ups or Turkish get ups. Going at a nice slow tempo here. Just pausing at each of these landmarks. Do it again. Rolling up to the elbow, pause. Up to the hand, pause. To half kneeling, pause. Standing, pause. Reversing that path. The idea with these kettlebell get-ups is being intentional and being in control of every piece of the movement. Got a little bit of leftover time, just waiting for round 2 to begin, and then I'm going to start back with my swings, this time on the right. Really working to keep my arm connected to my body by having a well-organized, engaged shoulder. So the weight of the bell and gravity is going to want my arm to kind of stretch out, and again, that fits right in with what we were talking about with the shoulders rotating, but really got to keep the lats strong. The shoulder will get really tired, and you're going to feel things start to burn as you go through this front rack carry. Stay connected to your deep breathing. Try to stay relaxed as possible through this carry. It's still pretty challenging, but it is an active recovery piece as far as this workout goes. Every time the bell is coming back to the ground, I'm going to try to bring it back to the ground under as much control as I can. Never just drop it or bail out on it. In these get-ups, you can really see the importance of my alignment. So I'm really keeping the weight over my center of gravity. Got pretty good alignment here as far as that overhead position goes. So if you've got some shoulder mobility issues, and you're not quite able to get your arm back in line with your body like that, I'd suggest either keeping the weight at chest height or just working with a lighter load. All right, here we go. Back with round 3. Left arm. Really working to grip the bell strong. Keep the shoulder connected through the lat. Try to keep those shoulders square. And from there, it's about tightening up the core and driving through with those hips. So being very intentional with the walk. As you'll notice, I'm barefoot. I've already kind of checked the ground to make sure there's no debris or anything I could possibly step on that would be dangerous. But being barefoot just gives me a much better sense of a feel of the ground and a sense of my position. So I really encourage you to, especially when you work with kettlebells, do it barefoot or in a thin shoe. Next round of get-ups. Again, being as deliberate as possible, checking in with these landmark positions. Just about making sure that you feel stability, that you can actually sense stability through every piece of the movement. All these positions are very active. I'm always pushing into the ground. Sitting up as tall as I can, or lengthening my spine as best I can. A few seconds to breathe. Stay focused between these rounds. This is pretty much constant work all the way through these 6 rounds. So you've got to keep your focus, you've got to keep your mindset really dialed in. As the rounds start to tick by, the fatigue really starts to build. And if you notice the form breaking down, at this point you've got to start asking yourself whether you are going to keep going with the same amount of reps or you're going to make adjustments. And there's no ego behind this. It needs to be an honest decision for the sake of your training, for the sake of getting better, because you can't just put garbage repetitions into the mix and expect to improve, expect to get better. The only thing that comes from those sloppy repetitions is potential injury and bad habits. So be committed to quality work over quantity. Get the quality in place first and then add more onto that foundation. At this point, my shoulders are really getting tired. These get-ups are becoming more challenging. Got to stay present with every repetition, every piece, every phase. Even in transitioning from the ground to standing in between rounds here, I'm trying to do that as mindfully as possible. Nothing frantic, nothing rushed, just putting in the work in a very consistent, relaxed, focused way. 2 rounds to go. The kettlebell swings are so interesting. I've been working with kettlebells for years now, and the swing is really the most fundamental kettlebell specific movement, and it really is a natural movement, but you continue to learn about your body and you learn about the mechanics by going through this action repeatedly. So it's one of the things that I love about this workout is the simplicity, is the repetition that you get in, and you learn so much by staying focused through your fatigue. Different areas of your body start to get tired, and you have to learn how to keep everything together and how to use your body to move fluidly, to move efficiently, even in the presence of some fatigue. Transitioning back to the ground, getting ready for these get-ups. I'm definitely feeling it at this point. My shoulders are tired. The sweat is running into my eyes. But I'm going to keep this relaxed focus. I'm going to stay conscious and stay mindful of every movement. I'll keep doing my best here. Just a few more minutes to go. We come up on the 6th and final round today, right arm swings. Now, even though I'm really tired at this point, I know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I know that I can keep it together for just 15 more swings. This is a critical point in the workout where I need to maintain my focus, to keep my grip strong, my shoulder organized, and keep driving through my hips. Onto the carry. At this point, I'm still scanning my body, doing my best to make sure that I'm as well aligned as possible, even though we've got a asymmetrical loading going on here. At points, I'll take my free arm and reach across my body to provide some extra support. It's all about finding this balance between tension and relaxation during the carry and maintaining structural integrity. Last 2 get-ups for today. Pressing the bell. Up to the elbow. Up to the hand. Bridge. Knee down. Half kneel. Up to stand. Breathe. Reverse the path. Control all the way to the ground, and again. This is one of my favorite reps here, the last get up, coming all the way down, staying focused all the way to the ground, even lowering the bell under control. Excellent. It's time to cool down. All right. Breathing is the priority here. Using focused, deliberate diaphragmatic breathing to bring the body back from a stressful state to a baseline state. So I'm just taking a comfortable seated position here, kneeling, bringing my hands to my abdomen to give myself some feedback to make sure that I'm doing this deep belly breathing. Especially when we first get into the cool down, might still be breathing in the chest a little bit, but trying to shift the breathing to a diaphragmatic pattern. And I'm just going to go into some light stretches, and the stretches aren't anything exceptional. Really, I'm just taking some of the same movements that I've been doing through the entire workout so far and holding them longer, adding additional stretch to the positions and adding some deep breathing. So same movements or similar positions, just a different intention behind it. Started with a half kneeling hip flexor stretch and then going into a half split here. And making sure to repeat that on the other side. Now the idea behind these stretches, they're never really passive. I'm never just collapsing into the stretch, but I am still putting some strength and intention behind the stretch here. Again, it's all about balance, finding the right blend of tension and relaxation, creating some control and stability around these positions of stretch to make the stretch more effective. Really, the breathing is the priority here. It's of the utmost importance. And we'll continue flowing through our cool down stretch here, coming into a downward dog. Great stretch for the shoulders, hamstrings, calves. I'm going to spend some time here setting up a strong position, but deep, relaxed breathing. I'm going to shift forward. Our rolling transition again takes me into this inverted crawl position, or a wild thing pose in yoga. This feels really good for me. It may or may not be right for you. So use your discretion at how you want to stretch and flow through this cool down. Continue to prioritize your breathing and pay attention to the areas that your body is telling you want some attention. Continuing my flow, I'm walking my hands back to my feet to a folded position and adding a standing split. A lot of strength required for this stretch. I'm using the strength of the hip to lift the leg upward. I can either keep my hips square or open the hips slightly and get more range of motion. I'm not super mobile here, but I just perform this action a few times each side. Get a strong stretch through my posterior chain. And then to finish up, coming into a deep squat. Bringing the hands together, using the elbows to push the knees open, and thinking of creating length down my spine. And that'll bring today's session to a close. I want to thank you for joining me on one of my favorite workouts that I've been doing over the course of this summer. It's just a great way to stay well balanced in my body and to stay mentally tough. So hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.